Joining us now, former special advisor of Ukraine Armed Forces and president of American University Kyiv, Dan Rice. Also with us is Ukrainian parliament member Kira Rudik. Good to have you both here. Thank you for joining me and taking the time. Before we get into it, Ukraine and Russia conducted a prisoner of war swap yesterday, sending back 193 captured personnel, each in exchange on both sides, facilitated by the U.S. and the United Arab Emirates. How good is it to have these guys home, and could this be a step in the right direction for peace? Kara, we'll start with you on that question.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. You know, even if the negotiations will end with nothing in terms of the peace, but will bring our people back, that is happening right now. It would be so important to conduct them, and it would definitely worthwhile to be having them. It is critical for Ukraine to get all our people back. We are not using our people as battlefield meat. We are not starting the wars. We are trying to end it. And we are fighting for every single citizen, every single person. So yesterday, there were tears of joy by so many Ukrainians, you cannot begin to tell you.
Dan, let me ask you the same question. I mean, this is certainly good on a humanitarian side. You've got people now out of the conflict back home. But what does it mean? Is this something that is just a one-off, or do you think this is a first step toward an actual peace agreement?
No, I agree completely with what our other guest said. Ukraine lives by the same values as the United States, never leave a fallen comrade. And these heroes are being reunited with their families. It's very, very, very important. And I think it's a great sign. Unfortunately, Putin does not want to end this war. And so prisoner exchanges are really great and welcome, but ending the war is the most important. And until that psychopath decides to stop the war will continue.
So, Kira, let's talk about that. I mean, there have been heavy losses on both sides. There's no clear path to a total victory. So the question is, Ukrainians dug in saying Putin doesn't want to end it. Russians dug in saying that Kiev doesn't want to end it. Is there an acceptable compromise that could end this war from your perspective as a member of parliament?
Well, we cannot say that both Ukraine and Russia are saying that it has the same values. Russia is an aggressor. They are fighting on our territories, and if they stop the war would end. If we would stop fighting, Russia will just move forward and kill more of Ukrainians. Of course, we have high hopes on President Trump to deliver the promise that he made to have the peace through strength. And the strength needs to be applied right now on Russia, because everything that President Trump suggested, Ukraine has completed. In Ukrainian parliament, we have voted for the rare earth minerals deal to move forward and to give the United States the real vested interest in Ukraine's future. We have agreed to a ceasefire, to all the rounds of negotiations. But as of right now, there is not a single fact or a sign, except of that Putin said something, that Russia is ready to end the war. Even the offers of the ceasefire, prolonged ceasefire, are being declined by Russia. So what we hope that at some point President Trump will get annoyed with Putin and start really putting pressure on Putin instead of lifting sanctions on Russia, which is basically fueling the war, which is basically giving Russia more funds to continue attacking us.
So, Dan, Kira brings up President Trump. I think there is no question that President Trump is going to be at the center of this. He said that if he were president back in 2020, the war would have never happened. Now, could this conflict have been avoided if America had some different policy decisions? You think about the decisions made under Barack Obama, the decisions made under Joe Biden, the saber rattling about NATO. Could this have been avoided?
Absolutely. I 100% believe that. I think if President Trump had been elected, instead of President Biden, that this war would not have happened. I think President Biden laid out a red carpet for Russia when he said, if it's a small invasion, we might not mind. And basically, we pulled out our special forces February 3rd, 2022, prior to the invasion. That sent a signal to Putin that, hey, the door is yours. We should have never allowed this war to happen. We should have stood and fought. Our 10th Group Special Forces soldiers wanted to stay and fight, and they were not allowed to. They were forced out. That's the opportunity that I had to go in, because everybody was pulled out. And so I went in and I became the special advisor to General Zaluzhny because I was no longer in the military. But we should have never allowed this war to happen. So many mistakes have been made. The Budapest Memorandum in 1994 was horrible. It was a terrible document. We never gave Ukraine the security guarantees that we should have. We need to learn from this. Now the security guarantees need to be real. We need to provide a security blanket for Ukraine so this never happens again.
Kira, let me ask you, so Ukrainian negotiators reportedly are proposing to rename a small strip in the contested Donbas region and calling it Donnyland. This would be an attempt to appease President Trump. Okay, so is it something that you get a little tongue-in-cheek, or is this realistic to have some kind of an area that might be a no-fly zone, might be a border that can keep the two apart?
Oh, I didn't hear about this idea rather than from the media, so I cannot confirm that this is realistic. However, there's obviously a way of moving forward if we will have American support and security guarantees. President Zelensky repeatedly said that the document for the security guarantees is ready. However, we in the parliament have not seen it. We were not able to discuss it amongst ourselves. And the main question is, again, is President Trump, are the United States ready to make sure that Russia would not attack us again? This is the key question that is not answered just yet, because basically we know for 100% that Russia would attack us or somebody else in the future. And we need to make sure that our children would not have to fight the same war again over and over. And if this question is answered positively, that we will be protected, then I think there are many things that we can discuss as a matter of compromise.
Well, I think it's a valid point about protection. I also think there's a valid point to be made about civilians in Donbass who have been subject to terrible, terrible circumstances for many years. So, Dan, before I let you go, you were invited to Germany by former Delta Force Commander General Chris Donahue to receive the Civilian Award for Humanitarian Service between March of 22 and 23. You repeatedly entered active combat zones in Ukraine, accompanying Ukrainian forces under enemy fire and conducting critical battlefield assessments. So can you just bring us to your experiences on the battlefield? What was this like, and how do you feel about the recognition?
Yeah, it was an honor to receive the award from General Donahue. It was unexpected, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, my experiences early on in the war, going to work for General Zaluzhny, and he sent me out to the battlefield to observe. I brought a Delta Force retired Colonel Lee Van Arsdale with me, and we observed operations in Donbass. That's when I realized we were not giving the best ammunition, artillery ammunition, to Ukraine. And then I started lobbying to get cluster munitions, which helped Ukraine really fight off the Russian offensives. We were not, the whole war has been very politicized. And unfortunately, Jake Sullivan was running the war because President Biden was kind of asleep at the wheel. And Jake Sullivan, with no military experience, was deciding on weapon systems that he shouldn't have been deciding on. So I had to work with Congress, bipartisan approval, to get cluster munitions. Senator Jack Reed, Democrat from Rhode Island, West Point graduate, helped me get cluster munitions, then ATACMs. I got a number of weapon systems for Ukraine. But it's been an honor to serve Ukraine and to support the U.S. national security objectives.
Dan Rice, thank you. Kira Rudik, appreciate both of you.